Wiggles. Wiggles looks like the kind of cursed plush toy you would find rotting at the bottom of a thrift store bin, except this one actively demands raw poultry and eventually upgrades to human flesh. Helen's daughter, Ailey, kept this maroon centipede caterpillar abomination as a pet, constantly feeding it raw chicken and fish just to keep it from throwing a violent tantrum. It is like watching someone try to appease a demonic toddler by singing, "Why buy an expensive matcha cake?" in the voice of Marge Simpson. It absolutely does not work. The second Ailey ran out of groceries, Wiggles started screaming, banging on the walls with brute force, and then unhinged its jaw to swallow her completely whole. Parker and Chester arrived just in time to find Ailey's saliva-covered hair in her empty room, and watch Wiggles slide directly into Helen's bedroom to claim its second course. Wiggles leaves a trail of goo wherever it travels, stretches its maw open wide like an anaconda, and eventually loses its tiny arms to scoot around on the floor like a deeply disturbed worm. It even tried to smash its face straight through a solid wooden door to add Parker and Chester to its nightly buffet. They barely escaped, leaving Wiggles completely unchecked in the wild, aggressively squirming toward the nearest meat source. Billy sits in a filthy room, aggressively drooling, sporting wild, stringy hair, and wearing a white shirt with red sleeves. Debbie explicitly warned Parker and Chester through an email that her younger brother had been in a horrible accident and was not right anymore, constantly staring at her through doorways and begging her to come play. Her older brother Ronnie completely dismissed her, insisting Billy was well-fed and fully handled. Ronnie was an absolute idiot. Billy spends his nights banging his head against the wall and violently smashing dinner plates over his own skull, before casually morphing into a terrifying spider pose. Parker eventually found this lengthy humanoid creature hiding beneath a bed, happily devouring Ronnie. Billy sucked Ronnie's leg down like a strand of spaghetti. It was less of a grisly murder and more like a cryptid, placing an order for an Evan burger at a drive-thru, utterly unbothered by the sheer absurdity of the meal. The diet is strange. The absurdly long, stretched-out limbs are worse. But Billy's most unnerving quality is his total, unblinking apathy. He is categorized as a medium threat simply because he is the very first antagonist to actively ignore Parker and Chester. He just sat under that frame, slurping up his older brother's barefoot, completely uninterested in chasing down the cameramen. Imaginary Friend. Imaginary Friend is a remarkably mild title that downplays the invisible nightmare currently living inside Barbara's house. After one of Barbara's children died in a tragic fire, Caleb's entire personality dissolved into pure malice. He started hoarding his mother's undergarments, aggressively fighting classmates, and randomly cutting girls' hair at his school. Parker and Chester showed up expecting a deeply troubled kid, only for Caleb to immediately vomit black goo directly into Parker's face. The vibe in that household was somehow worse than Hank Dingle Schrader's vague, impending doom prediction for February 18th. The real threat was a tall, messy-haired entity in a patterned shirt, black shoes, and jeans, whose neck jutted out at an aggressive, unnatural angle. You absolutely cannot see this thing with the naked eye unless you are Caleb. For everyone else, it only shows up through the night vision lenses on Parker's camera. That is exactly why it earned the name Imaginary Friend, because Caleb was the only person who could see it without any equipment. Despite being invisible, it has zero trouble interacting with physical matter. It swallowed Caleb whole without a trace. It marched straight into Barbara's bedroom and ate her too. It even wrapped its spindly, invisible fingers around Chester's throat, nearly choking the life out of him before arbitrarily deciding to let him go. An invisible predator that eats entire families and leaves no physical evidence behind is a logistical nightmare. Stanley. Stanley wears a drafty hospital gown that permanently exposes his bare spine, shuffling around his dimly lit house with long, skinny limbs and a perpetually vacant, happy expression. Bailey returned from college only to find her mom and little sister completely missing, leaving only her father behind. Stanley suffered some kind of severe accident and locks himself in his room all day, groaning to loud music, but at night he crawls out from under his bed like a balding Woody that just discovered the sheer horror of his own mortality. Parker actually tried to be wildly empathetic at first, suggesting Stanley was just processing severe trauma and needed patience. That sympathy dried up instantly. Stanley moves with the erratic, swaying motions of a carnivorous praying mantis, methodically stalking his own daughter in the dead of night. He broke his television in a fit of sudden rage after watching a mysterious tape, then casually popped out of Bailey's bedroom closet and dragged her screaming into a massive hole hidden in the drywall. Stanley even had the chilling presence of mind to text Bailey's friends from her stolen phone, inviting them over to presumably meet the exact same grisly fate in the closet. Tommy used to be a normal kid before his father Michael died, and he ran off into the dark woods for 3 days. The thing that climbed back through his bedroom window was a lengthy organism wearing a mask and a black button-up shirt. It definitely was not Candace's real son anymore. Every night, Tommy wails in sheer agony as his arms and legs violently elongate, stretching his bones to impossible lengths underneath his comforter. He feeds on moving black meat and dead animals, dragging them home in garbage bags. Chester found several dog leashes stuffed in Tommy's closet, confirming the cat was far from his only victim. But his primary food source is Candace herself. He sneaks into his mother's room, unhinges his jaw to reveal a long, slimy black tongue, and violently jams it directly into her cervical spine to siphon out her cerebrospinal fluid. Candace was basically kept alive as a walking juice box to fuel his massive growth spurts. He can snap his neck 360 degrees, swinging his head around like a medieval flail, staring directly into Parker's camera and giving it the most unhinged cannon hands thirst trap face before destroying the equipment. By his second appearance, Tommy sucked Candace totally dry, turned Aunt Doris into a hollowed-out meat husk, and fully escaped back into the woods. Eugene. Eugene is the textbook definition of a midlife crisis, spiraling into a catastrophic supernatural disaster. Unhappy with his physical appearance, he joined the local men's enhancement club and returned home through the woods as a completely different entity. His charisma vanished instantly. His face was literally peeled back, stretched crudely over his skull, with dead, black, hollow eyes and a poorly made mouth permanently hanging open. He abandoned his humanity entirely to become a sadistic, emotionless architect of human flesh. Killing his victims is only the first step. He actively assimilates them. Eugene is covered head to toe in a gooey, black substance that allows him to slip inside human beings without stress and take control of their bodies. He operated on his own family, peeling the skin and scalp off his daughter to create a wearable husk. When that hollowed-out skin suit begins to swivel and crack on the floor, it is because Eugene is supernaturally constructing bones and nerve tissue inside it. He snoo straight into that new bodysuit. Watching a decaying surgeon twist his spine backward like a spider, while his poorly stitched face sloughs off onto the basement floor, makes proper conjugation feel entirely irrelevant. He operates from a chained-up, bottomless hole, constantly drafting new body parts onto himself. Forest Creature. Forest Creature skips the elaborate psychological torture completely and goes straight for pure, unadulterated brute force. This pitch-black, malnourished giant lurks deep in the woods behind Chad's house, walking on lanky, crooked limbs in a terrifying quadrupedal sprint. Its pitch-black skin acts as perfect nocturnal camouflage, broken only by bright white eyes and a massive, toothy grin stretched across a twisted, elongated neck. Standing fully upright, this thing is easily over 10 feet tall and possesses strength far beyond human limits. Chester initially caught the monster on camera, violently dragging a screaming woman into the dark tree line. Later, the creature broke directly into Chad's room, killed him effortlessly, and left his mangled body hung up on the wall like a grim hunting trophy. It possesses insane elasticity, stretching its arms and neck to horrifying lengths to reach blindly around a heavy bookshelf. When a terrified stalker woman broke into Chad's house, specifically to hide from it, the creature simply followed her inside through the exact same entrance, snatching her up without a second thought. It even managed to grab Chester, dragging him across the floor and thrashing him around with the kind of casual, devastating power that instantly shatters human bones. The Blast. The Blast operates on a completely different tier of hostility. Most monsters are driven by blind hunger or strange animalistic instincts. This immense, balding humanoid wearing nothing but white boxers and a maniacal smile is purely malicious. He squatted in Amber's deceased uncle's home, heavily implied to be a hyper-intelligent, homicidal stalker who deliberately kidnaps, imprisons, and psychologically tortures his victims before violently ending them. When a captive, helpless girl trapped in the house found one of Chester's cameras and held up a handwritten sign begging for help, the Blast responded. He moved with insane, inhuman speed, violently tackling her to the ground and destroying the camera in one fluid, aggressive strike. It felt exactly like watching that viral video of the anti-ICE protest. Oh, so you support ICE? Just a sudden, brutal, and entirely overwhelming physical shutdown of a helpless target. The Blast stalked Parker and Chester in the pitch-black basement, silently watching them set up their equipment before directly whispering, "I see you," from the shadows. He locked Amber in a hidden room with a mysterious medical IV and an open chest, holding her hostage until she was narrowly rescued. Once Amber moved in with her parents, she blocked both Parker and Chester's numbers and emails entirely, refusing to explain who her uncle even was. The Blast remained an untouchable, calculating murderer. Surviving the life of luxury universe requires a fundamental acceptance that your life is instantly forfeit the moment you step onto a cursed property line. Whether dealing with a fake son treating a spinal cord like a juice box, an invisible entity eating mother's whole, or a balding man in underwear running at Mach 3, there is no winning scenario. You just run, abandon the expensive camera equipment, and pray the creature does not follow you back to the car. Lock your closets tightly.